Hello, everyone. My name is Days Tuan. My report is Writing Print Communication Materials. My report is divided into two parts. Part one is Introduction to Print Communication Materials, which includes people involved in the design and production of print communication materials, importance of learning how to write and write well, and achieving readability. Part two is the principles of clear and effective writing. In this part, I will talk about principles one and two. Let's get started. Let's look at the people involved in the design and production of print communication materials. Writing print and communication materials is a complex process involving many people. The design and production of print communication materials is a team effort, just like how others do it in the design and production of other types of communication materials. Let's meet the members of the design and production team. We have the writer, or sometimes a pool of writers, editor, or sometimes a pool of editors, illustrator, layout artist, and printers. Then here comes modernization, which gave rise to desktop publishing. Its existence allows a person to play different roles all at the same time. A single individual can already work alone, do the writing, layout, and printing. However, ladies and gentlemen, in development communication, one person operations are not encouraged. Team effort remains important, wherein each member has their own expertise. As they say, teamwork makes the dream work. It's a collaboration of creative and rational thinkers to produce effective and well designed communication materials. Now, in DevCom, why is it important that we don't only write, but we also have to learn how to write well? Writing is a basic skill everyone must hone. Why? Because many things depend on written communication. In business, for instance, almost 90% of communication is done through writing. Not only that, we also communicate with most of our friends and relatives through writing. Don't you agree? Let's talk about how to be a better writer. I assume that all of us here are already good writers. How do we write in development communication? In development writing, we must think of this first and foremost. How can I get my audience understand my message? While it's also necessary to be creative and interesting as much as possible, let's do away with verbosity and flowery prose. Let's go back to this question. How can I get my audience understand my message? This is where achieving readability comes in. When writing, your main goal should be to achieve readability. Right now, I'm showing you a news heading. I want you to read it. Did you understand it in just one pass, or did you have to read it again and again to understand the meaning? Do you think this heading is readable? Now I'll show you another example. Which title is more readable? To me, the one on the right is more readable because it's simple and specific. Why do we have to be careful with our word choices? It's because people's capacity to understand things are not the same. We always have to consider the educational level, experiences, and cultural background of our audience. Studies have shown that people have two kinds of vocabulary: the recognition vocabulary and use vocabulary. Recognition vocabulary consists of words that you are familiar with but you don't actually use in conversation or in writing, while use vocabulary consists of words that you understand and use frequently. Here are the examples. As much as possible, when we are talking to a bigger audience of different educational, social, and cultural background, we have to choose words that are recognized by the majority. If this is the case, you may be asking, we can't be creative in our writing anymore? We can still write creatively, but make it clear and simple. For example, this article from Reader's Digest. The words used are simple but creative and engaging. It tickles our interest, right? Here's another example from the Instagram account of World Health Organization. This is in line with SDG 3. If we pay attention to the author's choice of words, it's simple and straightforward. Our textbook authors say the truth is there's no single formula for good writing. In fact, writing cannot be taught, it can only be learned. We learn the basics in school, grammar and composition. However, if we want to level up our writing skills, we need to read more and practice writing more. Now, let's move on to part 2 of my presentation, Principles of Clear and Effective Writing. There are 14 general principles for clear and effective writing that can help us achieve readability. Principle number 1, think first, then write. Writing is like taking a trip. We have to plan where we want to go and how we are going to get there. How do we do this? We start by trying to answer the following questions. Why am I writing? Is it to inform, entertain, educate, motivate? Remember, development writing is writing for a specific purpose. Number 2, who am I writing for? Housewives, children, farmers, teachers? It is important that you write for your intended audience at a level they will understand. And number 3, what am I writing for? Is it for a leaflet, journal, newspaper, radio? Keep in mind, different kinds of materials often require that you follow a specific format. After answering these 3 questions, we now start writing an outline. If we think of writing as a trip, then our roadmap is an outline. An outline is a simple and effective way to lay out our ideas before we actually get down to writing. How do we write an outline? There are 4 steps. Number 1, think about your central idea. Number 2, think about your specific purpose or state your learning objectives. Number 3, think about your main ideas. Number 4, provide supporting points. Let's look at this example. This can be found in our course textbook on page 72. I think most of us, if not all, already know how to write an outline, or at least have an idea how to do it. Again, principle number 1, think first, then write. Now that we have learned how to write an outline, let's apply it in our writing assignments. Next, let's look at principle number 2. Use simple, short, and familiar words. The easiest step to readability is to learn to use shorter, simpler, more familiar words. Again, remember, What are we trying to achieve in development writing? Is it to get our message across? Or is it to impress our readers with our extensive vocabulary, even if they can't understand a single word we wrote? In DevCom writing, choose the simplest and most appropriate word to communicate your message. Avoid using big words. Instead, stick to simple words. For example, use, get, fire, result, fair, or just. Are we not allowed to use difficult words in DevCom? We still can. Use long and familiar words only when appropriate. Sometimes we also need to for accuracy. Again, principle number two, use simple, short, and familiar words. Keep it short and simple. This is the end of my presentation. Allow me to briefly recap the things that I have covered in this report. Number one, writing print communication materials is a team effort. It involves several people with specific expertise: writer, editor, illustrator, layout artist, and printers. Number two, in writing DevCom materials, readability is of utmost importance. And number three, to achieve readability, we should apply the 14 general principles for clear and effective writing. The first two principles are think first, then write, and use simple, short, and familiar words. Here are my two questions for you. What kind of a writer are you? Are you the planner, spontaneous, or a combination of two? Number two, when you write, do you use simple words or you have the tendency to be verbose or flowery? Please explain your answers briefly. Thank you for watching and listening. See you on my next report. Bye.